welcome into Feldco Bears Recap Live with Olin, Kreutz, and Tom Waddle. I'm David Kaplan. We'll get right into the game. We'll get you set for the upcoming Raiders game, but we start with our game breakdown brought to you by Four Seasons Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric. Gentlemen, good evening. Bears lose 19-13, so all the good feelings of a week ago when they beat up on the Commanders, those go by the boards. And Olin, I heard you yesterday say, could they handle the prosperity of winning? And unfortunately, they could not. Your takeaway when you watched that game, sir?
It was just disappointing because you went in with excitement. The young players were getting better. Justin Fields was playing good football. It was against Denver. It was against Washington. You're wondering, could it continue, especially versus a team that was going to put him through the test, Tom, and what he doesn't do well, right? Yeah. And the first play of the game, I mean, everyone's talked about it. They got 5 blockers. They bring 6 guys. DJ Moore's open in the slot, and he holds the ball for whatever reason. And from there, you're just disappointed. On the other side, man, I mean, the next play, the second play of the game, they spread the field. They run zone read. They gain 13 yards, and Getsy never comes back to it. And I'm just confused when I watch those two things happen. It was the game in a nutshell.
Yeah, I think overall, guys, look, I thought this was a game that they really had a good chance to win, and a game that I expected them to win. I don't think they're a great football team, and never suggested that beating the Commanders and then following that up with a win over the Vikings was going to take them to the NFC title game or ultimately to the Super Bowl. But it's a Vikings team that came into town with the same record without their best player. And the Bears were looking to do something that they hadn't done in a couple of years, and that's win a couple of games in a row. And I thought it was a great opportunity for them to build a little bit of momentum. I thought tip of the cap to the defense. I thought the defense played hard. I thought the defense played well, gave up 220 yards, 13 points total, and threw a shutout in the second half. But when you're a team that lacks talent, look, you can't lose the turnover battle 3-1, and they're just not good enough to overcome some of the self-inflicted wounds. And offensively, like Olin mentioned, they just didn't build off of some of the things, the good things that we saw against the Broncos 2 weeks ago and against the Commanders last week.
All right, let's look at that first slide of the first play of the game. OG, take us through this, because Tommy and I were talking about it. You immediately count the numbers and you go, oh, God, that doesn't look good, right?
No, it doesn't. And we talked about on last week's show, right, what the Washington Commanders did in the second half. They went to a 5-down defense, and they were going to make the Bears go 5-on-5, and that's how they slowed the Chicago Bears down in the second half. So if you're the Chicago Bears, you expect to see this, right? You expect to see 5 D linemen on the field. Now you got DJ Moore and Harrison Smith. Now Harrison Smith, good football player, but he's in his 12th year. He's a safety. I'm sure his 40's a little slower. I'm going to go right after him right away. And the line is sliding to the right, picking up 5. And there's 6 guys coming. And for whatever reason, Justin Fields holds on to the ball.
And guys, like, this is what's so infuriating at times, is that you've had 8 days, maybe 9 days to get ready for this. You knew what Brian Flores was going to do. He blitzed on 56% of the plays prior to this game. And ultimately, I think when all was said and done, he blitzed on over 70% of the plays. Like, Justin has to know what that look is going to deliver. And that ball's got to come out, and that ball's got to go to DJ Moore. And there's just no explanation for why they struggled with this play. And I think it set the tone for the entire afternoon.
Yeah, you look at the first play and you think, oh, my God, this is how we're going to start, with a guy coming free release, blindside your quarterback, and he had no concept of what was about to happen to him, right?
No, he did not. He did not, obviously. And it's funny because as much as Justin Fields does this, it's like then he runs for 13 yards, and then all of a sudden – he checks the quarterback draw on 3rd down, and they get a first down off of that sack. They actually got a first down after that, and it just seemed like Getsy said, "I don't care. I'm gonna keep putting you in the pocket against Brian Flores' defense." And here's this zone read out of pistol. I mean, the running back's right behind the quarterback formation, and he zone reads it, and he gains 13 yards. And Tom, they baffle me. They never go back to this spread the field look, zone read. And he came out here and he made number 21, the cornerback, miss. I mean, that puts so much pressure on your defense. Spread the field out. Ask him what he does. Ask him to do what he does well. I don't know. I was just confused all over the place watching this game. I got to be honest with you guys. We talked about last week how we talked about in the first couple shows about how the center and the quarterback have to work together. It almost depends on how much the quarterback can do off of how much the center has to do. That offensive line, Cody White here, they struggle with communication across the board, man. Across the board, when you watch it, it was crazy.
Yeah, and I think that, like, Olin, you're going to be, spot on a lot of this stuff. And I got so many questions about protection tonight. It's just odd. I would ask you the question. The game plan didn't look similar to what we've seen the last 2 weeks, but the defense also didn't look like it did the last 2 weeks. So when you come into a game against Brian Flores, when you're going to see a lot of 6-man fronts, and whether they're mugging the middle linebacker and he's bluffing and then he's pulling out or whatever the case may be, do you believe that they thought, because of how Flores will design the defense and how they were aggressive on the edges, is that why they didn't do as much moving of the pocket, as much bootleg? And was there a reason why, when you look back at the totals against Denver and the Commanders, it doesn't look like, in terms of play calling, the way it looked against the Vikings? And is that a legitimate reason as to why you would tweak your offensive game plan?
Coming into the game, it is, right? Coming into the game. And you could see now, in my day, you would tap your helmet. That meant 5 down. That meant you had the 5 down line. The 5 offense linemen had the 5 down line. Nowadays, they put their hand behind their back with a 5. And they signal to the quarterback, we're going 5 down. They tell the running back, we're going 5 down. They did that too many times in this game. They couldn't match up with these guys, right? So they played actually Buddy Ryan's Bear defense, right? They came to Chicago, put 5 down on the field, and made that O-line go 5 down. Now, Tom, I know that they want to block it up and throw deep, right? It looked like Flores is out guessing Getsy sometimes. But the problem that bugs me is when you go in at halftime, you know it's not working, right? You know it's not working. Then you ask yourself, what is working? Well, you got 13 yards when we spread the field and we went zone read. Why don't we ever see that again? You come right back out. You put Mercedes Lewis, Cole Kmet. You go double tight end. You go wing. Now, they were having success running the ball there, but it seems like immediately it's run the ball and 1st and 10. Let's try to take a shot down the field. And Flores was going cover 3. He was out guessing them. He was double teaming them over the top. You saw that on the 22.
How do they not know this when the game is starting? Is that a coaching error? Is that first play of the game? Do the coaches not expect that? I'm sitting at watching the game going, Brian Flores is going to blitz the hell out of them. I mean, how do you not know it?
Look, I was shocked when they were in empty, Tom. I don't know about you. Well, when they came out in empty to start the game, I was like, oh man, like you don't have Aaron Rodgers. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know. I even go into deeper into the game where I thought two of the turnovers. The first one was the interception thrown by Justin, and then the strip sack fumble from Bajent. I don't understand what their protection schemes are all about. And this is not something that I'm an expert in. And that's why I thought Olin would be perfect for tonight. And we asked Coach Eberflus about this yesterday. Like, what happened? Is this player error, or is this an unsound protection scheme that you're running? Because if you look at the interception that Justin threw, you watch Darnell Wright turn to the outside and block the linebacker, and you're asking Dante Foreman to block Daniil Hunter, which is a small on a big. You went big on small and small on a big. And I've always thought that, Olin, it was always big on big, small on small. And that's what Eberflus said to us as well. How can that be your plan and how you're supposed to block it? But then when the play is called and both of those guys emphatically, like, Wright didn't stutter. He went straight to the outside, and Foreman looked straight to the inside. And I thought you should have gotten more out of Foreman, which would have allowed Justin to throw the football. But schematically, when the coach tells you that we have taught it correctly, but then you put the tape on and you watch them execute it in the manner they did, what conclusion are you supposed to come to?
Yeah, I thought that the communication, it was really late sometimes when I was watching the TV copy. And for a center, it's like almost like a wide receiver, Tom, where you have an option route. Sometimes you have options on who the protection is going to and which way you're sliding the line. The center has to make a definitive call. Remember now, Nate Davis was out of the game at that time. It looked like Cody, when you take your hand to the left, you're taking the line to the left now, and no one got that call to Darnell Wright. Right? So now the Foreman, and then we got a new running back. We talked about that could be a problem. And now he fills in there and tries to just fill in on Danielle Hunter. I think Wright thought that Jatari Carter was coming with him, and they were fanning that side, and Cody was going to go big on big. But once they walked up, Cody went late with the left call. And I'll be honest with you, man, I watched that film. I love Cody Whitehair. I think he's a hell of a pro. I think they should play him at left guard. They would have called me this year. I would have told him, Cody's not a center. Play him at left guard. He made a lot of late calls in that game, a lot of late adjustments. Sometimes when you have a young officer, I've made this mistake before, where I got a late call. I tell my son in Illinois, make the damn call and go with it. Stop. You're taking too long. I tell him too, right? You mess. It's just a lot going on there. And I think a lot of their calls were late. And all of a sudden you get a young Jatari Carter in there, and he's going left, but he had to tell a young Darnell right, and everything just came together. And now, I hate to bring this up, but Ryan Poe's, you have to know what kind of quarterback you have, right? You have this kind of quarterback who needs a center who can make those calls, then you need to bring in a center who can make those calls.
Yeah, right, and not to mention the play calls or the protection calls, but the snaps. There were at least four or five snaps that ultimately led to they had to kill the play, or it had a direct impact on what the quarterback was forced to do. And look, this is the NFL. This isn't peewee football. This is the most basic of asks, isn't it? That if you can't get the ball from the center to the quarterback without making the quarterback work, then you got to find someone else snapping the football.
Yep. It's hard to do, right? It's hard to do. The shotgun snap is hard to do, but that's why there's only 32 guys who do it. Right? It's hard to lose your hand before every play. So
when you have a quarterback who struggles to process, and we got a picture here, I could have grabbed 10 of them. There's one down by his ankles. This is Bajan having to go up. Justin had to leave his feet like he was a baseball player playing shortstop with a liner over his head. When that happens and your quarterback struggles to process anyway, he's got to take his eyes off the defense. How much does that affect the ongoing play? Monumentally, a little bit? What is it?
Oh, yeah, it does. It affects it because, like you're saying, the quarterback has to take his eyes off the defense. And a lot of what they're running is these mesh nowadays, right? So you screw up the mesh, you screw up the read. It's a huge part of the game. We all know that. But I will counter with this. You have to know what your guys are capable of. And we have talked about on this podcast before. It's the plan that was the problem. Remember, Cody Whitehair was their plan as their starting center, right?
Correct.
I will tell you this again. I know guys that Cody Whitehair played for. I know the coaching staff. He is not a center. How do they not know that in their building? Yeah. You tell me how they don't know that, and I know it.
Third regime that had to move him from center. Fox moved him out of the position. Nagy moved him out of the position. And now Eberflus is moving him out of the position.
And to Cody Whitehair is a $10 million a year guard, and he plays at that level. When you put him at left guard, he is a pro. He comes every day. He studies his playbook. He does the things that need to be done to win football games. I thought against the Commanders at left guard was one of his best games I've seen him play. Now you move to center, a position he's not a center. Like I don't know how many more people have to tell you that.
Yeah, I think it was a huge mistake that they didn't. And you've mentioned this in the past, Olin. A huge mistake that they did not address that position in the offseason and certainly heading into the season. And again, I mean, the best point that I've ever heard about this was the one you made. And it's dependent. It's very much dependent on your quarterback as well. If your quarterback isn't seeing things the way that you need him to see things, then the center is even more important than he naturally is. And for them to pretty much ignore the position or the importance of the position has turned out to be a catastrophic mistake for them and maybe the development of their young quarterback as well.
Olin, does Doug Kramer have an opportunity at all? Because if he can't beat out Cody Whitehair at center and Lucas Patrick, then he shouldn't be on the roster. He isn't even getting a chance yet, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's had some injury problems, right, going into the last 2 years. And from what I've seen for preseason, he has things to work on, but we all do as young players. I got to be honest with you, Cap. The more I do this, I'm sure, I don't know if Tom would agree with me, but preseason doesn't tell me much, man. I got to see him when the bullets are flying. I got to see him against starters. I don't know. Like we talked about a lot of these guys who are 6-year guys, right? Why did it take you 6 years to get into the NFL? I don't know these things. These are answers that have to be questions that have to be asked and answered along the way. As far as Doug Kramer goes, like you're talking about, is he better than Lucas Patrick right now? That's the question I don't know. Lucas Patrick has shown he can shotgun snap. He can man that position. He can make the calls. I'm sure he's a starter this week.
You know, what's sad, guys, too, is that, look, we're going into the 7th game of the season. And a lot of the stuff that Olin is talking about it's not rocket science. It's the basics. It's the fundamentals that make you a good team, or ultimately, if you're not good at them, they make you a bad team. And you can't be going into these games, especially against a defense like the Vikings. And talent-wise, they're middle of the pack, in my humble opinion. But they do some interesting things because their defensive coordinator is willing to take chances and is very creative. If you're not prepared and you're not crossing your T's and dotting your I's, he's going to make you look foolish. And I think that that's what happened. And teams that are more equipped to handle those types of changes have had their way with that Vikings defense. It's not as if the Vikings are the number 1 defense in the National Football League. You know, he knows that he is outmanned and shorthanded at times, and that's why he goes down swinging. He takes his chances. He takes his runs at you because he knows over the course of 60 minutes, if his guys line up against your guys, there's a really good chance that your guys are going to get the best of his guys. So, like, I just think, especially when you face a team like this, if you are not fundamentally sound and you're not on your P's and your Q's, what is going to happen is exactly what happened to them on Sunday.
So I want to go to, this is Justin getting hurt. Now, I highlighted a couple of guys that are open. Darnell Mooney is, pardon my language, wide fucking open down the middle of the seam there, and DJ Moore is wide open. And Justin Fields has time in the pocket. I ran a stopwatch, and he held the ball from snap to the time his thumb ended up in Evanston, 6.19 seconds. 6.19 seconds. Tom Brady continually says, if the ball's not out of my hands and no more than 2 3/4, it's my fault. Nobody else's. 6.19, and he's got 2 guys open. How in the F does this happen?
Well, it shouldn't. And it's one of the reasons why I think that there's some consternation with many of us who watch this and some uncertainty that exists up at Hallis Hall as well. I really thought, going back to the first play that Olin diagrammed, I thought that they got into the quarterback's head a little bit from the opening snap. You know, if you go back to the previous 2 games, and I'm not minimizing it in any way, shape, or form, but when everything is clean and everything is right, Justin has been able to make plays and excel. How often is everything in an NFL game clean, and how often is it right? It's the moments when things do go sideways and when you get the unexpected, when the really good players end up finding answers to the questions. Good quarterbacks, as I said today on our show, have a tendency to clean up others' mistakes. And again, is everything that goes wrong in a game with this team the quarterback's fault? Absolutely not. This has got to be shared culpability. But the quarterbacks that really excel are the ones that make the other guys around them better and find solutions to some of the problems. And And I thought that Flores got him off his spot and really got in his head a little bit early. And then what I thought I saw personally, and Olin may disagree, I thought I saw more of the quarterback we saw in the first 3 games versus the quarterback we saw in the previous 2 games. And that's a quarterback that isn't trusting what he's seen, even when what you and I see is open wide receivers. And I thought what we saw again, we were looking for continued progress. What we saw was regression to the mean, or regression to kind of the QB that we had seen previously. So I thought it was a rough day for Justin. I thought it was a rough day for a lot of guys, but there were some things that happened in that game that definitely brought you back to some darker times.
OG?
Cap, I have to tell you the truth, Tom. I have to look up consternation. I'm going to use that at least twice this week, man. That's a Scrabble word. That's a good Scrabble word. But look, Justin Fields, like Tom is saying, we've seen this story before from him, right? We've seen him play football like this. I didn't like the plan. I didn't like the way he played football. I will say this. Like Tom mentioned, this is a failure of everybody. I hope everybody at Hallisall realizes that they have failed now for many years, right? Like, we got to figure this damn thing out. Like, don't think that you're not a part of this if you work at Hallisall. Yeah. Don't think you're not a part of this. All of a sudden, we're here. It's week freaking 6 or 7, and we're talking again about some quarterback who didn't make it, right? We're watching the same football team we watched when I played for the Chicago Bears, right? Well, from 98 to 2010, right? We're always looking for a quarterback. What's wrong with the quarterback? The quarterback can't do it right. He can't do something like, I don't know, man, like Purdy, right? We say, okay, can Bajan be Purdy? Well, Purdy has the best left tackle, the best all-around running back, and he has Deebo Samuel, and they have one of the top 3 tight ends in the NFL, right? Yes. I don't know if you put Justin Fields with those guys. I don't know if he looks different with Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan, one of the top play callers. Some people think the top play caller in the NFL. I don't know, man, because when I watched that game plan, I don't like what Justin Fields did. I'll admit he's got to see the field better. He's got to get the ball out. Cap, you're talking about that play. They showed an 8-man blitz. They dropped 8 guys out. They rushed 3, right? He's got to hold the ball. I know you're talking about Tom Brady. Justin Fields is not Tom Brady. I don't mind if Justin Fields holds the ball a little longer than Tom Brady. Tom Brady got to get the ball out. I would probably beat him in a foot race. Probably not. But I will say this. That plan I didn't like. That Justin Fields I didn't like either. So both scare me. You got to prepare good enough, well enough. You got to prepare well enough to get the ball out on the first play of the game.
And that's why, Cap, I think that you look at the situation. I know we're going into week 7. It's why I've said from the very beginning, it's shared responsibility. There's no question. Nobody's sitting here telling you that Justin Fields this is all his fault. There's no doubt. They tried to help him this year in terms of upgrading the talent in that offensive huddle. And I think they've done it to a certain degree. Does the plan fit what he does well all the time? Probably not. But there are still moments when he can be the solution to the question or the answer to the question, and he doesn't show up. So as Olin is saying, I got a plan that doesn't fit the quarterback. I've got a quarterback that can't provide some answers. At the end of the day, I think what we're and now unfortunately he's having to deal with a thumb injury on his throwing hand. For the love of everything good and pure in this world, I think everyone has to now look at this situation, despite the fact we're only 6 games in, and say, like, if Justin's going to be out for some time, have the Bears already come to the conclusion as to what direction they're going next? And I know that that's a big picture question, but I think it's part of the equation now, and I think it's part of the landscape. And I don't think, based on what we've seen from Justin over the course of the last 30 starts, and again, it's not all his fault, there's no chance up at Hallis Hall that Ryan Poles feels like he has seen enough from the quarterback to put all of his eggs in Justin's basket. That's just reality right now.
Well, the other thing is, so if he's unsure, but he doesn't have a first-round pick, he thinks, all right, I'll roll another year. He's going to have maybe the number 1 pick and maybe number 1 and number 2, number 1 and number 3. Like, he's going to have options now. Caleb Williams, Drake May, J.J. McCarthy, Michael Penix. He's going to have options. Is there a chance in your mind, Olin, is this an outlandish statement, or you might be right? We may have seen the last of Justin Fields in a Bears uniform.
I think not this year. I just don't think Bajan's going to play that well. I think when Justin comes back, he'll play again. I will say this: no matter how Justin played this year, because he hasn't shown himself to be elite, and I think with the guys he's surrounded with, there was no way he was going to be elite. I think Ryan Poles was going to have to make the decision anyway. I think no matter what, I think even if he played well, right, because that offense around him, beside DJ Moore, they showed that, even with a Minnesota Vikings cornerback, Byron Murphy, he's a good player, but he's not great, that they can compete with him, right? So now all of a sudden, but I thought Mooney looked better. But like Tom's talking about, like, you're looking for somebody when everything is going wrong, when Nate Davis goes out, when Darnell Wright's not having one of his better games, when Cody Whitehair's struggling. Got to find somebody who's a multiplier, who makes everybody around them better.
All right, let's take a look at Justin's numbers. It's called Justin Fields Winging It. It's brought to you by my great friends at Westtown Bakery in Wheeling. And if you want to have a great brunch, Saturday, Sundays at Westtown Bakery, and every day during the week, you can do your work in there. You can have coffee and pastries and eggs and everything. The weekend brunch is phenomenal at Westtown Bakery. Justin didn't last long. 6 of 10, 58 yards, no touchdowns, and 1 interception. He got hit on the interception. I don't know how much of that was his fault, but part 2 of it is Tyson Bagent came in, 10 of 14, 83 yards, no touchdowns, but he did run one in. He did have that bad interception at the end of the football game. He also had a strip sack that led to 7 for their 6. They missed the extra point from the Minnesota Vikings. So there is our quarterback board. We call it Winging It by Westtown Bakery at the corner of Lake Cook and Milwaukee. And here's tonight's dessert for my wife. I picked it up at the bakery today. I hooked Olin's family up last week.
We appreciate it, man. It was good.
How about that? As soon as this show's over, right there, buddy. Let's talk about Tyson Bagent because, again, I like Justin. I would love to see him make it. But why did the offense look better with Tyson Bagent in there? Ball out, man. Get the snap, gone. This play right here is the seam route that Tommy was talking about. Tommy,
real quick, I'll jump in. Look, first thing I'll say is the first 4 series were rough. They really were. The ball did come out, but let's not over exaggerate. The performance of Bagent early on. I thought the touchdown drive was outstanding. It was 9 plays. It was 77 yards. The ball did come out. He was 4 for 4 on that drive. He looked very composed, and he thought it looked like he really was getting comfortable. And then the next drive, I thought he also looked comfortable. They got down the field, I think, basically by running the football more than anything. And then he just tried to make a hero play, which I'll touch on in a second. But this was a really interesting play to me, Olin, because this is really the first time all season long, in my humble opinion, I think I've seen them throw a seam route. And DJ Moore makes a tremendous catch. This is one of those throws in the NFL that you have to make, and maybe he should have thrown it even a little bit earlier. But it's a bit of a medicine ball because you know that the defender is going to put a hit on the receiver, and DJ makes a really good catch, but it's a ball that has to be thrown. I think other than the seam route and the broken coverage against Denver that Cole Kmet ran in the red zone or close to the red zone, that's the only other seam I think I've seen them run all season long. And when you're not affecting the middle of the field consistently, you're just making life so much easier on the opposing defensive coordinator. So I was thrilled, to see this route run and to see this route executed. And I thought Bagent did a really nice job seeing it. Could have probably let it go a little bit quicker, but stepping up and letting the ball go. And I know that the wide receiver, although he took a big hit, that's a play that a receiver appreciates, a quarterback recognizing that he's open and he's willing to make that throw. He's like, look, part of my job is to take one of these hits. It's a car crash every time I'm out here. Throw me the ball, let me make the play, but at the very least, let me do my job. And I thought this was a great example of letting them, letting the wide receiver do his job. And I thought it was an excellent play.
Your thoughts, O?
Yeah, I first of all, when I saw the play, I was like, man, DJ Moore is the kind of guy you want to be on a team with, right? That's a tough football player. Took the hit, They took him off the field, and he was back in. Told the doctor, "I'm fine." I mean, I thought to myself, that guy is the kind of guy the Chicago Bears need in their locker room. As far as Bajan goes, he gets the ball out fast, and this is football is a lot like the fight game, right? Like styles make fights, and the Vikings are blitzing you all the time. And as soon as Bajan went in, I tweeted out, interesting matchup for Bajan because he has to get the ball out fast. They're going to force him to, but it matches his style, right? Now, if someone sits back a little bit and makes him make throws and makes him throw the ball over the top of the defense, sits in all those zones, then we'll see because, like NFL teams are going to make you play to your weaknesses, right? He got to go against a plan for Justin Fields. But I am like every young quarterback, you're interested in what this guy can do. And he did what he did in the preseason. His operation went well. He looked like he knew what he was doing. He looked calm. He looked under control. And that is his game, Cap. He gets the ball out fast, right? But eventually people are going to start sitting on that. And he's going to have to beat him over the top because eventually they're going to make him throw past 15-yard windows and to make them beat him. But as far as getting the ball out, that's his style, right? Which isn't Justin Fields' style. We'll see when they start to take away his first read, his second read. We'll see where he goes from there.
I'm going to be interested in seeing this. And look, I'm not one of these guys that is in love with a backup quarterback in this town. I know that that's been part of the mantra here in Chicago for quite some time.
For a long time, buddy, all the way back to Peter Tom Willis.
Exactly. So, I'm not enthusiastic that I want to see Justin play. I wanted to see Justin play all 17 games because I think to make a really detailed evaluation of who he is and whether or not he should be your guy going forward, I needed to see all 17 games. Unfortunately, he has a history of getting hurt because of the way he plays the game, and he puts himself in harm's way too many times for my taste, but this was kind of, inevitable. With that said, I think what's interesting about Tyson Bagent, yes, ball comes out quick. I think Olin's absolutely correct. How will he adjust to the adjustments that are presented to him? Everyone thinks he's just this game manager. I think the opposite. I think actually he comes from Shepherd University in West Virginia, where he tried to make every humanly possible throw on the face of the planet, where he would gamble. And I think you saw that in the desperation he threw, which was a reckless throw and a rookie mistake that he made on the interception. I think in his DNA, one man's opinion, he's a guy that wants to push the ball down the field. So I think what they have to do, I think it'll be interesting to see how he performs after having a full week of practice. I think you have to tell him you need to be aggressive and need to be the player you are, but understand that the guys you're playing against, this is the National Football League. It's not Division II. With all due respect to the Division II players out there, you can't just wing one in the air and think that you're going to find success because the guys you are playing against are Division II in college. So you have to be careful. So you want to maintain your aggressiveness, but at the same time, be mindful of the fact that the athletes you're playing against are world-class athletes. So maybe they do have to wring a little bit of the gunslinger out of him. I know that may be contrary to kind of what he wants. You got to find your, water finds its level over the course of time. And I think that he will find, that level that makes him most comfortable. But for those people, I think that just think he is a game manager, I think his DNA is the exact opposite. And what you're going to have to do is try to find some middle ground with him based on who he's facing now versus what he was facing in college.
All right, let's take a quick timeout. We'll come back. This is Feldco Bears Recap Live. That's Olin Kreutz. That's Tom Waddle. I'm David Kaplan. Be right back.
The house before you, over 30 years old, still has its original windows. Bone chiller.
There's no need to be afraid of old windows.
Feldco's got you covered this fall with 40% off windows and 40% off roofing. Plus, no interest for 1 year. 40% off windows and roofing won't last long. Hurry. Call now.
Call 866 for Feldco.
Feldco Bears Recap Live is brought to you by Feldco, Chicago's home renewal experts. Call 866-4FELDCO. Four Seasons Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric. For all the right reasons, 4 seasons. Vienna Beef. Go to viennabeef.com and use code CAP23. That's KAP23 at checkout for 15% off your order today. And Dr. Pepper. Grab an ice cold, refreshing Dr. Pepper today at a McDonald's near you. All right, time for our Dr. Pepper play and player of the game. And it wasn't real difficult to pick the player of the game because I thought he was a monster, couple of sacks. He just is a disruptive player. He makes $20 million a year for a reason. Danielle Hunter from the Vikings was Justin Fields' worst nightmare, and he is our Dr. Pepper player of the game. And our play of the game in a 1913 game, I think you have to go with the Tyson Bagent strip sack. He's got to be better, guys. Got to protect the football. Justin did that against Denver. We see it here against the Vikings. Hicks picks it up. See you later. Thanks for coming. And that was the difference in the ball game because Bagent did come back with a nice drive, got the 1-yard touchdown, and just disappointing to lose to the Minnesota Vikings. Olin, your thoughts overall? Are you excited to watch Bagent, or I'm not so sure that's going to go well?
Does Shepard play Hamlin? Do they play Hamlin? Does Bagent play?
Actually, we beat Shepard.
Did you really? Wait, not when Bagent was there, though.
No.
Of course, you're always excited to watch a young player go out there and see what he's got. I hate to be in almost preseason football mode here in Week 7 NFL season that we have to be analysts for, but here we are again watching if the Chicago Bears can find a quarterback, one, and find young players to become Pro Bowlers, two. So, as Tom talked about earlier, excited. This guy does show some moxie, does get the ball out fast. Excited to see a guy and see what he has. See what he has against the best players in the world. He's got a good matchup this week. Not the best defense, but a good pass defense and a good defensive line. So we'll see what he has going. I don't know. I guess I'm just at the point right now. I'm trying to get over the fact that we're here already again. Wondering if we have another young quarterback who can play, who's an undrafted free agent out of Shepard. I wish him the best, but it kind of sucks that we're here again.
Yeah, and to build on that, Olin, from a broad perspective approach, look, it's great to have the number 1 pick and the number 2 pick and all this draft currency and cap space and all this other stuff. But, where's the confidence level that all of that is going to equate to a new path to victory and consistent victory?
You couldn't get the center position right.
Right. So, am I hopeful? Yes. Am I a fan of my favorite team? Of course. Do I have 100% confidence that they're going to get it right? No, I don't. And that's what's difficult. So, look, we can come to the conclusion that Justin wasn't the fit for this team potentially, and that the offensive coordinator and Justin's style didn't mix, or for whatever reason, it just didn't work, and that they need to pivot and move forward, and that they have positioned themselves in a very flexible manner in which they can make that pivot. But there's no guarantee that it's going to work out, and that's what, which constantly leaves you with this pit in your stomach that, okay, we're going to do this again. And Olin mentioned it. We have gone through this. This is rinse and repeat. And to think that we're already having these thoughts in Week 7, it's depressing. Last year, I was tolerant of the 3-14 season because I knew it was a teardown. But I also said at the time, 2023, I'm not going to be as patient as a fan or as an analyst, and I expect some significant improvement. And look what we're talking about in Week 7.
Olin, in looking at what's going on with this, so Louis Riddick, who I like a lot, was on with Tommy and Sylvie today. He said, if I'm the team president, I'm asking some really hard questions. The center position. How the hell is that what we're dealing with? And why does the quarterback not look like he has any idea what's going on with the game plan? And the game plan isn't taking care of the quarterback strengths. And then we get an undrafted free agent kid from Division II, and the offense looks like it's moving better, but you're playing to his strengths. What the hell's going on? He said, I wouldn't be shocked if we're in for a full reset. Isn't that what he said, Tommy? That would be coach, quarterback, and GM.
Well, it would with a new president, you wonder why he didn't get to hire his own guys anyway, right? So I know why Lewis would say something like that. It makes sense if Kevin Warren is totally not happy with what's going on up there. Hopefully Warren doesn't have to hire Bill Polian to hire people, right? So there's always a problem. Here's the thing, man. I said on a post-game show after the game, I said, look, if I'm Warren or Ryan Poles, I got to put guys in a room, both the quarterback, the offense coordinator, and the head coach, say, look, what's going on this play here? What were you told, and why aren't you executing it? I have to know exactly what's going on in my building, because for too long, it seems like nobody knows. And then I got to put Cody White here in the room. And like Lewis said, this is the NFL. Let's ask the hard questions and look people in the eye and just ask them. Cody, why are you repointing this? Why doesn't Darnell Wright know? What were you told to do during the week, right? And those things, when you turn a film on, like the one we just watched, the guys like me and Tom, when you turn that film on, I got to be honest with you, Cap, man. It's like when I thought they had a culture problem. When I turn the film on, I see a team that has a preparation problem. You know how I know? I've been on teams like that. I've been on teams with guys who don't study hard enough, who don't pay attention to details and walk through, who think they've arrived after one win. And that's the team I watched on that field on Sunday.
Guys making same mistakes over and over again.
Well said.
I mean, and that's whether it's the quarterback, it's the game plan, it's whatever it is. Look, I don't want to pass out flowers in a situation where they're not, it's not the right thing to do. But I look at the defense. That defense played with their hair on fire. I get it. The Vikings were without Justin Jefferson. But I saw a defense playing hard. I saw a defense that tackled well. There were very few missed tackles. Saw a defense where it didn't look like there were a lot of missed assignments. Matt Eberflus, the defensive coordinator, to me, did a hell of a job getting his guys ready, and those guys executed. I just don't know. I mean, is it player error? Is it preparation? Whatever the case may be, you just can't continue to function like this and think that status quo is going to be the ultimate outcome. You're looking at significant change, and rightfully so. And maybe at the end of it doesn't mean that as Lewis said today as well, doesn't mean Luke Getsy's a horrible offensive coordinator. Doesn't mean that Justin Fields can't play. It just means for whatever reason, it ain't working. And these are difficult questions. Why isn't it working? Why is Justin seeing one thing when the pocket is clean and everything's, in line? And why is he reacting differently when things get a little bit murky? And why is the offensive coordinator running this against this opponent and this against that opponent? It's just there are no solid answers from the seat I live in right now.
All right, Olin, I got a question for you. Let me just do this read. Dr. Pepper's an American original, just like our Chicago Bears. Please eat your taste buds. Since 1885, Dr. Pepper is a unique combination of 23 flavors, a winning formula that football fans love. Grab an ice cold, refreshing Dr. Pepper today at a McDonald's near you. Okay, Olin, here's my problem. Mm-hmm. Coach Eberflus is at the podium. Coach, you changed centers when Bagent came in. Was that because Cody Whitehair had a problem snapping the ball because one's here, one's there, and one's here, and one's there? He looked like freaking Jan Gomes of the Cubs back there, the quarterback. And he said, oh, no, it had nothing to do with it. We wanted to go with the more experienced guy. Cody Whitehair's played more than double the number of games as Lucas Patrick as a starting center in the National Football League. So my question is, why does this coach have such a goddamn problem walking up to the mic and going, yes, we changed because we were having trouble with the center quarterback exchange. That bullshit's got to get fixed, and we will work on it all week, instead of, no, that had nothing to do with it. Then he's a goddamn imbecile if that's what he truly believes.
I think Cody not showing up for the media session told you everything that happened in that game, right? Cody not being there to talk. I mean, for an older guy like that to get benched is embarrassing. And he knows he didn't do his job well. He knows that, so he's frustrated. But as far as Coach Flus goes, Cap, I don't mind if he's protecting his guy at the microphone, if he is holding him accountable behind closed doors. I don't mind that. As long as you're doing it behind closed doors, as long as you say, Cody, that wasn't good enough, we took you out because of the snaps. If he told him that, if he told his team that, I don't care what he's telling me. Just hold them accountable, right? But eventually, at some point, Tom, you got to try to hit another button, and maybe you got to call them out in public to get them going.
Yeah, it's been, look, Matt Eberflus is a really nice man, and you know, that play.
Yeah, you think anybody's ever said that about me?
Yes, I think
here's my problem with what you said, Olin.
Okay.
You owe it to the fan base to have some level of accountability. I'm not asking you to come out and go, that guy sucks. I didn't ask for that. All I'm asking him is go, look, Cody's a good football player. Maybe he's best suited at guard. But what we watched today is unacceptable because we are struggling there.
Well,
and so that's why I made the change.
I would say this to you, Cap. I think there needs to be someone up at Hallis Hall that is telling the coach, look, you're not reading the room, so to speak. Like, you're not, if you want life to be easier on you, and I get it, this is football. This isn't, entertainment to a certain degree. This isn't Hollywood, but it is entertainment. So if you are going to meet the media on a weekly basis, just know what you have said previously is being consumed and how people are responding. And I think to your point, Cap, like, people in this town are passionate about their football team, and they're used to previous coaches holding guys accountable. And when you have won once in the last 16 attempts, like, it ain't going well. So just at the very least say,
throw
like,
some goddamn red meat to the fan base.
Or and again, I agree with what Olin said. Look, he can say whatever he wants to the media as long as what he's saying to the guys behind closed doors is, guys, like, this isn't acceptable. I don't know that that's what he's saying, but maybe I said this a couple of weeks ago. Maybe it's the inner meatball in me. I want to see some anger. I want to see some disgust. I want to see a coach that says, I'm not coaching well enough, we're not playing well enough, and we'll do whatever it takes to turn this thing around. And consistently, that's not what you get.
I tell you what I worry about, Cap, real fast. I worry about, like, you hear about this Caleb Williams from USC. He doesn't want to come play for the Bears. I worry about eventually, man, like, the people come to Hallis Hall with great reputations and they leave wasted, man. You worry about if people even want to come here after a while. I've talked to coaches who come here. I've had coaches to call me, and I'd be like, I don't know, man. It's a tough place to win, and it's a tough building to win in, right? So, like, eventually, like, this coach Eberflus came with this reputation of being a great defense coordinator, great guy, good football guy. He leaves an imbecile, right? Eventually, man, it's the building, right? This building is laying waste to people. And eventually they have to look at themselves there and say, okay, like, does anybody want to come here anymore? Because we come here, we put guys in the building, and they can't coach and they can't play anymore.
So my friend Jonathan Hood said, yeah, if we drafted Mahomes, he'd be just another dope with a B on his hat. Like,
well, I personally don't agree with that, because I think some players are transcendent and they can excel even in difficult environments.
He had Andy Reid and all that other stuff. Maybe he doesn't become that with us.
Tyreek Hill, Kelsey. I see both sides. I just like, Coach Eberflus is a football guy of football guys, man. This guy, it's just kind of like all of a sudden he's an imbecile, he's an idiot. Can't, you know what I mean? Like, all these things everyone says about him. Justin Fields came in, had a great. I mean, it's just eventually, man. Like what is going on, right? Like, this is what we just talked about, Mr. Warren. This is what he's got to figure out. I'd like to take my old former teammate Ryan Poles and have a beer with him and be like, come on, man. You hired Eberflus. You wanted Coach Eberflus. Like, come on. 38-year-old guy. Yeah, I don't believe it. I just don't believe. I don't know. Like, come on. Like, they gave him the candidates. They had 3 of them already. These are the guys you're going to choose from. You do things the wrong way, you end up with the wrong shit.
Yeah. I think that they've got an opportunity now to do something that they have never done before, and that's put everything kind of in the right process. If Kevin Warren is the guy we all think he is and gives them an opportunity to kind of change the way that things are done and the way that business is done up there, it's going to start this offseason. And it has to. There has to be a new way to do business. There has to be a way that – think about how many different iterations there are of this franchise, where the coach is hired before the general manager and Ted Phillips is the president and he's making football decisions, yet tells you he's not a football guy. And – like, everything has been out of order. The last 2 quarterbacks, okay, have been drafted by the previous crew. and it doesn't work out.
It lasted 1 year, and they brought in a new coach.
I mean, so think about it. Like Mitch Trubisky is drafted by, Ryan Pace and
Fox.
John Fox is the coach, and John Fox has no idea that Ryan Pace is drafting Mitch Trubisky. No clue.
Olin, I'm at Waddle's house for a Super Bowl party. John's drinking vodka. He said, "Ask me anything you want." I said, "When did you find out you were getting Mitchell Trubisky?" He said, 5 o'clock the night of the draft. Pace pulled me in and said, "Oh, just letting you know I made a trade. We're getting Mitchell Trubisky." What?
Another great football guy, another good football coach, left Chicago a moron, right?
Yes.
Like I don't know, man. I don't know what to think. I mean, I was in the building for 13 years, right? Played almost 190 games in the Chicago Bears uniform. I can tell you a lot of things about that building that it don't operate at the highest level to win games consistently.
All right, it's time for our Vienna Eye on the Opponent. We look ahead to the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm happy to announce my partnership with Vienna Beef this year. Great taste and flavor since 1893.
Our
Celebrating.
partnership, right?
Yeah.
Our partnership.
That's correct. Celebrating their 130th anniversary.
Check him, Olin. Check him.
Look for one of our favorite kits, the Chicago-style hot dog kit, perfect for any tailgate or game day. Go to viennabeef.com and use this code. It's our code, CAP23, at checkout for 15% off your order today. So if you're out of town, you're like, I want a taste of home, viennabeef.com. Okay, I want to know, Olin, who in the hell is blocking Max Crosby? And Tommy, who's covering Davante Adams?
It's another good matchup for Darnell Wright, man. I mean, Darnell Wright, to be honest with you, like you guys talked about, the Bears ended up with 160 yards rushing. They put Mercedes Lewis next to him. They went to the left side to start the second half for whatever reason. But Darnell Wright with Nate Davis, they were a formidable pair. I mean, Nate Davis has a high ankle sprain now. Ja'Tari Carter not playing too bad for a guy who's a late-round pick, comes in. So it'll be Darnell Wright again. It'll be a great matchup. He'll learn. Max Crosby is an animal. They're going to have to give him chip help. That's another thing. You know what's funny, man, Tom, when I was watching the film, Justin did make some, pre-snap decisions that he wasn't making before. Like he moved Cole Kmet over to help where he wanted the chip help to be. You know what I mean? He didn't get the ball out like he did in the last 2 games, but he was showing operational stuff where he understood the game plan and what they wanted to do. Anyway, I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that about what he was doing pre-snap. But as far as Max Crosby goes, it's going to be a team effort to block that man.
Yeah, I think what they do with Crosby is you see it every game when you watch the Raiders. They just move him around. And it's like an animal in the wild that is searching for the prey that is least likely to be able to defend itself. And then when he sees that, it's boom. That's when he,
I got my guy. I got my fish.
Yeah, I mean, it's like.
By the way, as an offensive lineman, it's a pretty bad feeling when they line up on you, okay? Because I've been
right?
I've been the guy before.
You'll know who they deem as the most vulnerable by where Max is lining up the majority of the time. Look, he's the type of guy you want on your team. He plays 100 miles an hour. He loves to play football. He's a fantastic player. I actually think that, being able to contain the Raiders offense is going to be a challenge, but I think it's something that they could be up for the task. Davante Adams, to me, maybe the best route runner in the league still, even at a little bit older age than he was several years ago in Green Bay. They'll have their hands full, but I think, again, what you have to do, whether it's Jimmy Garoppolo or it's Brian Hoyer or it's Aiden, O'Connell, the rookie out of Purdue, you got to get that guy off his spot. Like you can affect how Jimmy plays if you get to him early and you get him off his spot, and he'll throw it to you a couple of times. So if Jimmy's behind center, then I think that I don't care who's behind center, keep applying pressure. And I think that that's something, the adjustment they've made that I've liked recently is they're being much more aggressive with how they're addressing getting after the opposing quarterback.
OG?
Yeah, I just think when you watch, I want to go back to the Chicago Bears defense again, is like Tom says, you got to give them the credit. I thought T.J. Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds showed up. I thought Brisker looked like a young guy about to take another step. It was good to see Gordon on the field. Good to see that secondary we talked about that we thought would be the strength of the team. I thought they looked good. I thought Coach Flu's bringing TJ Edwards, bringing Tremaine Edmonds. The defense line still doesn't get the pressure they need to get, but I don't think they're going to get it all year. I don't think they're going to develop into that all year. They just are who they are right now, but they can get it in other ways. So it'll be an interesting matchup against the Raiders. Now, the Raiders, I would imagine, come to town again. I was impressed with the Bears, Billings and Justin Jones, because I thought the offensive line was pretty good. And that defensive line, they shut down the run. They're getting a lot better against the run. They're hitting their run fits. They're doing a nice job with that. It will be an interesting matchup. As far as on the other side of the ball, as far as who starts Devontae Adams, I think they got the secondary that can do it.
Yeah.
So key to the game, Olin, I don't ask you for predictions. So key to the game, give me 2 keys. For that happens, Bears can win.
Yeah, they got to run the ball. They got to run the ball with Deontay Foreman with a young quarterback in there.
He had a good day last week.
Yeah, he did. He did have a good day last week. He runs hard. We talked about on this podcast that I weren't going to be, from watching his film in Carolina and we took over McCaffrey, you weren't going to worry about this guy too much running downhill. I thought they had a good plan for him running behind. Stay behind Darnell Wright. Stay behind Mercedes Lewis. Let them move guys off the ball. Give Bajan quick, easy reads. Patrick Graham, another defense coordinator who likes to heat you up sometimes. So it will be an interesting matchup again.
Going back to that's one of the things I wanted to mention is Mercedes Lewis may be our age, but he can still play.
So
like your age. I'm younger than you guys.
As a blocker, like you're not going to ask him to affect a defense running a seam route. But my God, I would trust him in any type of run set that we would throw out there. He can still move people at whatever age he is right now. I thought that was really important. Look, I said it last week, and I know it's cliche, but this team's not talented enough to make catastrophic mistakes and still win a football game. They lost the turnover battle last week 3-1. And to me, it was the difference in the entire game. Obviously, they turned it over once, and it was returned for a touchdown. I believe this offense has now given up. I don't know how many touchdowns they've scored, but they've given up 3 defensive touchdowns so far this year in 6 weeks. You are not talented enough to overcome that. So you can't turn the football over more than your opponent. So ball security has to be, I know it's very basic. I know it's football talk, but it's got to be something that they stress. And let's stop with these mistakes. You had enough time to prepare. If your protection plan is big on big, then make it big on big and small on small. But all the mental mistakes have got to be eliminated on both sides of the football. I don't see as many of them on the defensive side as I do on the offensive side. It's way too far deep into this process for these types of mistakes to continually happen.
So Darrington Evans on Max Crosby, probably not the best decision this Sunday.
No, absolutely not.
All right, Tommy, what's your prediction?
Wow. Look, every time I predict they're going to win, they lose. I would say to you that, like, the Raiders, I think this is going to be a difficult game for them to win with their young quarterback. I'd say 2019 Raiders.
Yeah, I think the Raiders win the game like 23-17.
Think about the players that the Raiders have. Like on offense, you've got Josh Jacobs, you've got Devontae Adams, you've got the kid they signed as a free agent, Jacoby Myers out of New England, and defensively, you got Max Crosby and some other guys as well. So I think from a talent perspective, the Raiders are a little bit better than maybe they've played. I just think it's a really tough spot for this team.
Gentlemen, have a great week. I'm going to go bring my wife a little dessert. I got a couple little treats here.
Cap, this is a G-rated show, man. I mean,
yeah, that's right.
Well, come on,
dessert.
Cap.
And we're going to go to Westtown Bakery, corner of Milwaukee and Lake Cook. Sunday morning, I'll be there for brunch before the Bear game. So hopefully people will come out and say hello. Great, great food. Guys, have a great rest of your week. And I look forward to next Tuesday night. And
go Bears.
Maybe, just maybe, Wally Pipp is coming in. We've got Justin
awesome.
will be Wally Pipp, and Lou Gehrig is taking over the quarterback spot.
The house before you, over 30 years old, still has its original windows. Bone chilling.
There's no need to be afraid of old windows.
Feldco's got you covered this fall with 40% off windows and 40% off roofing. Plus, no interest for 1 year. 40% off windows and roofing won't last long. Hurry. Call now.
Call 866 for Feldco.
Feldco Bears Recap Live is brought to you by Feldco, Chicago's home renewal experts. Call 866-4FELDCO. Four Seasons Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric. For all the right reasons, Four Seasons. Vienna Beef. Go to viennabeef.com and use code CAP23. That's KAP23 at checkout for 15% off your order today. And Dr. Pepper. Grab an ice cold, refreshing Dr. Pepper today at a McDonald's near you.
The house before you